I haven't checked yet, but I'm sure Paul O'Sullivan is somewhere on his way to a media outlet or setting up his Zoom camera so he can go ahead and give an interview about Masemola, because you already know Paul O'Sullivan and Masemola are oil and water, and that is not from Masemola's perspective. It is from Paul O'Sullivan. He has made it crystal clear, without mincing his words, as of the 6th of July 2025, after the combat press briefing, where he said, and I quote, "I want to see him fall. I want to see them fall." And that was in reference to Umkwanazi and Masemola. He wants the two of them down. And that is when he told us the story. Once upon a time, there were Louis Vuitton bags that came to South Africa in the possession of the National Commissioner and the provincial commissioner, but their positions were different then. They had gone to Europe on a supplier police trip, and according to Paul O'Sullivan, he hasn't shown us the proof. So this is alleged at this point. They came back with Louis Vuitton bags. They came back with Louis Vuitton bags, and they gave them to their wives, and they did not declare them. Well, we heard Umkwanazi address the Louis Vuitton bags. It was quite hilarious. Let me actually add his clip here. I'll be back with the rest of my commentary.
Allegations against me in the public domain. Could you briefly deal with that?
Commissioners, I know there are many allegations against me in the public domain, which are widely publicized. There are podcast channels that are hosting specific individuals that speak so bad things about me. At least now I know that the Louis Vuitton bag cost how much money. I didn't know until they spoke about me in the media, and I went to ask my wife, what is a Louis Vuitton and how much is it? And I got to learn. I don't want to engage much on it. We know that Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, immediately after addressing the nation on the 6th of July, he came on television and he said bad things about me. And it did not start. He's been on this for years.
How passionate Paul O'Sullivan is with regards to the Louis Vuitton bags. And well, Umkwanazi has given the official response, okay? As you notice, he never addressed it after the press briefing. He only addressed it here, inside Phakathi, within the Madlanga Commission. Now that is emotional intelligence that Shadrach Sevilla needs to pick up on. But let's jump to Masemola. I predicted that, Masemola is not the kind of guy who wants to spend the day talking. He just doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. And most of the time in interviews, especially when they would question him with regards to what Umkwanazi said, he would really just dance around the topic. But today, he was in the right platform, as Mr. Brown Mogotsi called it. And let me tell you, guilty confession, I had to watch him on 2x speed. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it just because of how much he dragged himself. But, well, the day started off with him explaining policies and the difference between his job and the minister's job. Eye-opening. So let's listen in. I'll be back with the rest of my commentary.
To issue a national policing policy. In other words, that is the direction in terms of what are the priorities that we need to do as the police. For example, there could be priorities about, let's say, gangsterism or cash in transit that is troubling the country. That is a strategic direction that we need to deal with that. But the how part of it, how many resources are going to use, of course, I will inform the minister as to what resources are going to use. But the how part of it, according to me, is an operational matter where I will decide how many resources in terms of personnel, vehicles, and how are we going to do this job. I don't expect the minister to say, get involved into the how part of it in terms of executing the functions. But I expect that he can identify the priority. Yes, he can talk to in terms of what he thinks. There's no problem even if he can say how he thinks the how part, but not that he get involved in to say, do it in the following manner. So in this case, my issue is, for example, in this case of the political killings task team, it is a task team that is working at a lower level under a provincial commissioner. If ever he found anything wrong with the task team, he could say, that task team, I think you need to disband it, and we can engage in the terms of the why and how and so on. But to say to go further to say disband, but then after saying disband, then you go further to say now, not even tomorrow. I think that is totally encroachment into the mandate of the National Commissioner in terms of performance of my.
So basically, Masemola is, I would say, monotone. So I don't know if we can say he is controlling his emotions or this is just what we're going to get all day. We're not going to get any character infused responses. But basically, with Masemola and what he just said, I actually agree with him. Okay. And basically, in summary, what he said is the minister overstepped his role. He's in a leadership position. He was just supposed to say disband the political killing task team. These are the reasons why. They engage in a conversation. They work out a timeline, but they disband them now. That's when Masemola's eyebrows raised and said, a bet. But as you all know, that never happened because he wasn't even there. So for the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, to come up with this outrageous request when he knew Masemola was on holidays and Shadrach Sibia was inside Masemola's seat, or should I say shoes, that for me remains sus. But let's continue listening on.
Duty. I don't know whether I answered.
From that response, I think I do get the how, which is an operational issue that falls under the purview of your functions. I do get that. But you seem to be lumping policy and directions together. So I'm still in the dark as to what the difference is between policy and directions. Can you now forget about the operational matters and just give us an idea of what the difference is between policy and directions as envisaged in Section 2072 of the Constitution?
Thanks, Commissioner. The policy will be like, we do have the Police Act. The minister is getting involved in development of that legislation, and there is a policy recently, national policing policy. There wasn't one. There is one that recently was issued that directs us in terms of what we need to prioritize. So it talks more on what is it that we must prioritize, because the Constitution in Section 2053 tells us what must we do, but there will further be priorities that are out there in terms of various provinces. Then the minister, yes, can issue policy to say, I need us to go in this way, issue legislation or issue extra policing policy like he did.
That's the policy, as I understand you. And directions?
Directions, according to me, it is any directives you can issue to say, in terms of what matters must we prioritize in terms of, like I gave an earlier example to say, you prioritize cash in transit, for example. You can say, yeah, there is problem of cash in transit, or there is problem for, like in his case, he said, we have problem of illegal mining in the country. Let's do something about it. That is a direction. And we go on to deal with our part.
If the minister were to stray from policy or the directions envisaged in Section 2072 of the Constitution, stray onto operational or managerial matters, would a national commissioner be legally entitled to disobey the minister?
Just come again, Commissioner.
Would a national commissioner of police be entitled to disobey an instruction by the minister if that instruction strayed onto operational matters? Would the national commissioner be legally entitled to say to the minister, Minister, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to act in accordance with your instruction?
Yeah, I take it that, yes, the national commissioner can say that.
Now let me be direct and ask you about yourself. If you were to find yourself in such a situation, would you disobey the minister? If the minister were to give you an instruction that strays onto operational or managerial matters, would you, General Masemola, say to the minister, I am not going to obey that?
Yeah, it depends, Commissioner, but yes, I will. It's a matter that is career limited, but
it depends on what?
It depends on how he does it.
I believe that he would. I really do. Because you saw how he changed his voice inflection and said, yes, I would. But not during these difficult times. We are in difficult times. It is career limiting. Yeah. So basically, he would, and also the legislation allows him to. But then the police minister, who was Senzo Mchunu at the time that this whole thing happened, okay, was problematic. I'll take you back to what Umkwanazi told us when he took us into his confidence during the press briefing. He said he was right there and he sat and he kept quiet. Masemola, that Masemola was there. He listened, he kept quiet, he never said a single word. So, Masemola, yet again, would you say no to the police minister? Let's continue listening on.
It's simple. It's
Yes.
simple. You have said operational and managerial matters are within your remit and not the minister's.
Yes.
So I am saying categorically to you that in what I posit to you, the instruction would be falling outside of the minister's remit and be straying onto operational and managerial matters. It's that clear.
Yeah, no.
Would you, General Masemola, tell the minister, I am not going to obey that?
Yeah, no, I will tell him that I won't do it. But as I said, it depends.
So
he must explain why he's doing certain things.
So if he explains himself, would you then obey, even if the instruction still strayed beyond the minister's powers and strayed onto your powers and functions?
Yeah,
I want to understand that depends. So if the minister explained him or herself satisfactorily to you, would you then say, Minister, even though you are encroaching onto my area of function, I will obey you. You are acting unlawfully. You are not acting in accordance with Section 207(2) of the Constitution, but because you have explained satisfactorily to me, I'm going to obey you. Would you say that?
Well, if he explains and I find the reasons acceptable, then I will. But if I find them not acceptable, then I will not comply with that instruction.
Explain yourself. Explain yourself. Why would you obey an instruction on something that the minister has no legal, no constitutional basis to do? Why would you obey that? Just explain that. I want to understand you.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. What I'm referring to, well, my understanding and his understanding probably will differ. But if he says, this is what I'm giving this instruction, you must do it, and there is an explanation why should one do the instruction, we will engage on such a matter, as to where is his powers, does it end up?
General, I am sorry to belabor this, but I just want to understand your thinking. It is not policy. It is not directions, as envisaged in 2072 of the Constitution. So if it is none of those, why would you ever obey the instruction? Where would the legal entitlement for the minister to give the instruction come from?
No,
and on what legal basis would you obey it?
Yes, Commissioner. Now, if it's very clear that it's clear cut is not his, then I will not obey it. I will not do it.
I said so right at the beginning.
Yes,
I said
I will not do it.
if the instruction strays onto your area of function, would you obey it?
Oh,
and
no.
you said it depends. That's what I'm trying to
Oh,
understand.
no. I will not do it. That one, straightforward, not.
Thank you, Mr. Mutau.
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, so after that long back and forth tennis game, finally we get an affirmative no, I will not. So now let's go back. It was December 31st. Did Senzo Mchunu know that Masemola would not follow the instruction and therefore went ahead and gave the instruction at that particular time? You know what? I'm curious to even go back and find that memorandum that was sent out just to see why was it snuck in at such a time, even when members of the public jury were in festive mode. But I'm going to end this video right here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Masemola in the witness box.